She took my dog. Not from neglect, not from love. She took him because she knew he was the only thing keeping me alive, and she wanted to be the one who decided whether I deserved to live well. That is the sentence I have been turning over in my mind for 8 months. And I need you to understand something before I tell you the rest. I did not cry in front of her. Not once. Not when she drove away with him in her back seat. Not when I saw the photos she posted that same evening. Not when people I had known for years sent me messages asking if I was really as bad as she said. I cried alone, in a house that suddenly had no sound in it. And then I got very, very organized. This is the story of how I got my dog back, and how she lost everything she thought she had built. His name is Milo. I want you to picture him before anything else, because he's the reason any of this matters. He is a medium-sized mixed breed, brown and white, with ears that can never quite decide whether they want to stand up or fold over. He has a scar on his left hind leg from before I adopted him, something the shelter could not explain. And he walks with the faintest hitch when it is cold outside. He is 9 years old. He is not a puppy, not a show dog, not a status symbol. He is just a dog who learned, somehow, that when I stopped getting out of bed in the morning, his weight against my legs was the exact right amount of pressure to remind me I was still there. I adopted Milo 3 years ago, 4 months into what my doctor called a major depressive episode, and what I called the year I forgot how to be a person. I was 34. I had left a job, I had spent a decade building, I had moved back into a smaller apartment, and I had stopped answering most of my phone. Not dramatically, not with a big announcement. I just slowly became someone who did not pick up, except for Nora. Nora had been my best friend since we were 22. We had met in a ceramics class, neither of us was good at, laughed about it, and never stopped talking. She was the person I called when things were hard. She was the person who showed up with food when I said I was fine, but sounded like I was not. She knew about my depression before almost anyone else did, and for a long time, knowing felt like trust. The thing about depression is that it changes what you can give. I became quieter. I cancelled plans. I was not the version of myself that was fun to be around, and I knew it, and I apologized for it more than I should have. Nora, to her credit, stayed. She visited. She helped me research therapy options. She was the one who suggested I look into getting a dog. Actually, said it might give me structure, something to take care of. She was right. Milo saved my life. I mean that plainly, without drama. What I did not understand then was that Nora had filed that information away, that she had watched me rebuild myself around him, watched me start waking up at the same time every morning, start walking outside again, start cooking again, because I needed to be healthy enough to care for him. She had watched all of it, and somewhere in the watching, something had shifted in her that I did not see until it was too late. The first sign was small, the way first signs always are. It was a Tuesday in late October. I remember because the light was doing that specific autumn thing where it comes in sideways and makes everything look like it is already ending. Nora had come over for coffee, which we did maybe twice a month. I had made the coffee before she arrived, poured it into the blue ceramic mugs I had bought at a market 2 summers ago. Milo was on his bed in the corner, watching us with the calm attention of a dog who has decided he does not need to be part of every conversation. Nora sat down, looked around my apartment, and said a little too casually, "You know, I was talking to someone at the animal rescue group the other day. They mentioned that dogs left alone for long periods can develop real anxiety. Like, it can be a welfare issue." I looked at her over my coffee cup. Milo is not left alone for long periods. "No, I know, I'm just saying in general." "Okay," she smiled. The smile was fine. The smile was normal. But there was something in the way she had framed it, a little too pointed, a little too rehearsed, that sat in my chest like a stone I could not locate. I did not say anything else about it. I thought I was being paranoid. I thought, this is what depression does to you. It makes you read danger into nothing. I picked up my coffee cup and changed the subject and let it go. I should not have let it go. Over the next 6 weeks, there were more comments, always casual, always wrapped in concern. She mentioned that she had seen a post about a dog owner who had been investigated by animal services because a neighbour reported poor conditions. She said it in the context of some news story, but she looked at me when she said it. She asked once, with a tilted head and a soft voice, whether I thought I was really in a place to give Milo everything he needed. She said she asked because she cared. She said she just wanted to make sure I was honest with myself. I told her I was fine. I told her Milo was fine. She said, "Of course. I just worry about you both." The both was new. She had never included him in her worry before. I started noticing other things. She would come over and photograph Milo on her phone, which she had always done. But now, she would photograph the apartment too. The dishes in the sink, the laundry I had not folded, the dog bowl before I had refilled it for the evening. I told myself she was just taking photos. I told myself I was spiraling, but I also quietly started keeping the apartment cleaner when she was coming over. And I noticed that I was doing it, and I noticed that I had not noticed her making me do it. That was when I understood, on some level I was not ready to name, that something had changed in the architecture of our friendship, and I had not been consulted. The fight, when it came, was not about anything important. That is always how it works, is it not? The real thing is never the thing they say it is. It was a Saturday afternoon in December. She had come over unannounced, which she had started doing more often. I had been in the middle of a quiet day, just me and Milo and a book I was actually enjoying for the first time in weeks. I was in my pajamas. The apartment was not dirty, but it was lived in. There were books on the coffee table. There was a blanket on the couch. Milo had knocked his water bowl slightly sideways, and some water had gotten on the floor, and I had put a dish towel down and not mopped it yet, because I was going to do it after I finished my chapter. Nora walked in and looked at the water on the floor, and looked at Milo, and looked at me and said, "This is what I mean." I put my book down. "What do you mean?" This is not okay. He could slip on that. He's an older dog. He could hurt himself." "Nora," I put a towel down. I was going to clean it up. "You were sitting there reading?" "I was going to clean it up after my chapter." She shook her head. That slow, sad, disappointed headshake that I had seen her use on other people, never on me. "I don't think you see how this looks." I stood up. "How what looks?" "You. This apartment, him." I said very carefully, "I think you should tell me what you are actually trying to say." And she did. She said she had been worried for a long time. She said she had documentation. She said she had photos. She said she had talked to people at the rescue organization she had recently joined, and they agreed that based on what she had described, there were grounds for concern. She said she did not want to do this, but she felt she had no choice. And she picked up Milo's leash from the hook by the door, and she called him, and he went to her because he trusted her, because she had always been kind to him, because dogs do not know the difference between love and performance. She walked out the door with my dog. I stood in the middle of my apartment, and I did not move for a very long time. The dish towel was still on the floor. The coffee cup from that morning was still on the counter. His bed was in the corner, empty. I looked at all of it, and I thought, she has been planning this. And then I thought, I have evidence she has not thought about. Here is what Nora did not know. She did not know about the front door camera. I had installed it 7 months earlier, not because of her, but because my neighbour had had a package stolen and I got nervous. It was a small camera mounted above the door frame, pointed at the entrance and the hallway. It recorded continuously and saved 30 days of footage to a cloud account. I had forgotten about it mostly. It just ran. She did not know about Milo's veterinary file. Milo had been to the vet 4 times in the past year. Annual checkup, a dental cleaning, a follow-up on his leg after a long walk aggravated the old injury, and a routine blood panel because he was getting older and I wanted to be careful. His vet, Dr. Kaminsky, had documented all of it. His weight was stable and appropriate for his age. His coat was healthy. His teeth, after the cleaning, were in good condition. His blood work was normal. Dr. Kaminsky had written in the notes from his last visit 2 months ago that Milo was a well-cared-for senior dog in excellent overall health for his age and history. She did not know that Milo was microchipped and registered in my name, with my address, with the National Pet Registry, and that the chip number appeared on every single veterinary record. And she did not know that I had, over the past 6 weeks, started keeping a quiet log. Dates, times, comments she had made, not because I had a plan, because something in me had started paying attention in a way I could not stop, I sat down at my kitchen table that evening, in the silence of my apartment, and I opened my laptop. I did not call her. I did not text her. I did not post anything. I started making a folder. The post went up at 9:15 that evening. I know the exact time because I was already awake, already working, and my phone buzzed with a notification from someone who had tagged me in it. It was a photo of Nora with Milo on her lap. She was looking at the camera with an expression I can only describe as beatific. Milo looked confused, which is his resting expression in new environments, but she had captioned it with something about how some animals find their way to the people who will truly see them, and how it was a privilege to give love where love had been missing. And then, at the end, the line that became something of a headline in the small social world we shared. Some of us rescue what others don't deserve. Within an hour, there were 47 comments. People she knew, people from the rescue organisation she had joined, mutual friends, sympathy, praise. A few people asking what had happened. She did not tag me. She did not name me. She did not need to. The people who knew us both understood immediately. I read every comment. I did not respond to any of them. I went back to my folder. The rescue organisation Nora had joined held a monthly community meeting at a local community centre, open to members, volunteers, and the public. It was, from what I understood, a reasonably well-attended event where they discussed cases, celebrated adoptions, and occasionally addressed welfare concerns. Nora had become, in the past few months, quite visible in this organisation. She had posted about it frequently. She had positioned herself as someone with a particular sensitivity to neglected animals and the people who failed them. She had, I would later learn, already told several people in the organisation about me, about Milo, about her decision to intervene. The next meeting was in 3 weeks. I requested to attend as a member of the public. The request was approved. In the meantime, I did 3 things. First, I called Dr. Kaminsky's office and explained the situation. I asked for a formal letter summarising Milo's health history and the standard of care documented in his records. The receptionist said they could have it ready within a week. Dr. Kaminsky, when she called me back personally, said she was sorry this was happening and that she would make the letter as thorough as possible. Second, I pulled 30 days of footage from my door camera and reviewed it. I found 6 instances of Nora arriving at my apartment unannounced, all within the past 2 months. I found the footage from the day she took Milo. I found something else too, footage from 3 weeks earlier, when she had arrived while I was out walking him, had stood in the hallway and had taken photographs of my front door and the area around it. She had not rung the bell. She had not texted me that she was coming. She had just stood there, photographing, and left. I clipped that footage and saved it separately. Third, I contacted the National Pet Registry and requested a formal certificate of registration, confirming Milo's microchip number and my name as registered owner. They mailed it within 5 days. I also quietly spoke to a friend who worked in animal law, not to threaten, not yet, just to understand what I had and what it meant. What it meant was, Nora had taken a dog that was not hers. There was no welfare case. There was no investigation. There was no legal basis for what she had done. She had simply taken him because she believed I would not fight back. She had confused exhaustion with weakness. That is a mistake people make about people who have been depressed. We know how to endure. We have been practicing for years. In the 2 weeks before the meeting, Nora posted 4 more times. Milo on a walk, Milo at a dog park, Milo on what appeared to be a new dog bed she had bought. Each post had the same undertone: rescue, redemption, her generosity, my failure. She never named me. She did not need to. The comments filled in the blanks, and she let them. Several mutual friends reached out to me. 2 of them asked, gently, if I was okay. One of them asked, less gently, whether the things Nora had suggested were true. I thanked all of them. I told them I was handling it. I did not explain further. One person, a woman named Priya, who had known us both for years and who had always been sharper than either of us gave her credit for, sent me a message that said only, "I don't believe her. Let me know if you need anything." I saved that message, not as evidence, just because it was the first warm thing I had felt in 2 weeks. I did not contact Nora. I did not ask about Milo. I did not give her the satisfaction of watching me beg. I packed my folder, printed my documents, labelled everything clearly, and went to bed early the night before the meeting. I slept better than I had in weeks. The community centre was a beige building with fluorescent lighting and folding chairs arranged in a rough semicircle. About 30 people were there when I arrived. I recognised a few faces. Most I did not know. Nora was near the front, talking to two women I did not recognise. She was wearing a lanyard with a volunteer badge. She looked comfortable. She looked like someone who had arranged the furniture of the situation to her advantage and was enjoying the view. She saw me when I walked in. I watched her face go through 3 expressions in about 2 seconds. Surprise. Calculation. Then the smile, the one I had seen so many times, the one that was warm on the outside and was doing something else entirely underneath. She came over. I didn't know you were coming. I requested to attend. It's a public meeting. Of course. She paused. How are you doing? I'm fine, Nora. Thank you. She searched my face for something. Distress, anger, desperation. I gave her nothing. I found a seat near the middle of the room, and I sat down with my folder on my lap, and I waited. The meeting opened with routine business, upcoming events, a successful adoption story, some administrative notes. The woman running the meeting, the organisation's director, a composed woman named Helen with reading glasses on a beaded chain, moved through the agenda efficiently. About 20 minutes in, Helen mentioned that the organisation had recently received a welfare concern report involving a dog that was now in the temporary care of one of their volunteers, pending further review. She did not name names. She did not need to. Half the room glanced at Nora. Nora sat up slightly straighter. Helen said they liked to handle these matters with transparency when possible, and that if anyone had relevant information about the case, this was an appropriate time to bring it forward. I raised my hand. Helen looked at me. Yes? My name is Clara. The dog in question is mine. His name is Milo. He is microchipped and registered in my name. I have documentation here, and I would like to share it with you, if that is appropriate. The room was very quiet. I did not look at Nora. I looked at Helen. Helen said, "Please come forward." I laid the documents on the table in front of Helen, one at a time, the way you set cards down when you already know the hand is yours. First, the microchip registration certificate, Milo's chip number, my name, my address, the date of registration, which was the same week I adopted him 3 years ago. Second, the letter from Dr. Kaminsky. I read one line from it aloud because I thought it deserved to be heard in the room. Milo presents as a well-cared-for senior dog in excellent overall health for his age and history. His owner has demonstrated consistent and attentive care throughout the duration of our veterinary relationship. Third, the veterinary records themselves. 4 visits in the past year, detailed notes, healthy weight, healthy coat, healthy blood work. Fourth, the camera footage. I had transferred the relevant clips to a tablet. I showed Helen the clip of Nora arriving unannounced and photographing my front door and hallway while I was not home. I showed her the clip of Nora leaving with Milo. I noted the date and time. Fifth, my log. 6 weeks of documented comments, dates, and times. I placed the folder on the table and I stepped back. There was no welfare investigation, I said. There was no report filed with animal services. There was no legal process. My dog was taken from my home during an argument by someone who had been building a narrative about me for weeks. I'm asking for him to be returned. Nora stood up. I had expected this. I had expected the voice too, the one that was controlled, but with a tremor in it, designed to sound like emotion rather than panic. I was concerned. I genuinely was concerned. I have photos. I have seen the conditions. I have spoken to people here who will tell you that I came to them out of real worry, not out of any personal motivation. Helen looked at her. Did you file a formal welfare report? A pause. I was in the process of doing so. Did you have legal authority to remove the animal? Another pause. Shorter this time, but heavier. I acted out of concern. That is not what I asked. One of the women Nora had been talking to before the meeting, a woman who had been nodding along to everything Nora said for the past month, was now looking at the table. Nora turned to the room. I recognized the move. When the facts are not working, appeal to the feeling. I've spent my time here genuinely trying to help animals who cannot speak for themselves. I would never do anything that was not motivated by that. Anyone who knows me knows that, Helen said, quietly. The documentation here indicates the animal was well cared for. It also indicates he was removed without legal basis. This organization cannot be part of a situation that involves the unlawful taking of a registered pet, regardless of the motivations stated. Nora looked at Helen, then at the room, then finally at me. I met her eyes. I did not say anything. There was nothing I needed to say. Helen asked Nora to return Milo to me directly that evening and to bring any documentation she had to the organization's office for review before any further volunteer activities. She said it calmly, with the tone of someone who had managed difficult situations before and was not going to make this one more dramatic than it needed to be. Nora said, "I can't believe this is happening." Helen said, "I understand this is difficult." Nora said, "She is the one who needed help. I was trying to help her." Helen said, "Please return the dog this evening." Nora gathered her things. She did not look at me again as she walked out. She walked quickly, with her chin up, which is what people do when they are trying to look like they are leaving by choice. Priya, who I had not known was at the meeting, appeared at my elbow. She squeezed my arm once, said nothing, and let go. I stood there for a moment, with my empty folder in my hands, and the fluorescent lights humming above me, and 30 people rearranging themselves around the new shape of the room. I thanked Helen. I picked up my documents. I went outside to wait. She brought him at 9 o'clock that night. She did not come to the door. She texted me that she was outside, and I went down. She was standing next to her car with Milo on his leash. He saw me before she finished handing the leash over. He made the sound he makes, the low, urgent whine that he reserves for when he has been waiting for something. And it has finally arrived. And he pressed his whole body against my legs. I crouched down and put my face against the top of his head and breathed. Nora said, "I hope you're happy." I stood up. I am, actually. She waited, I think, for more. For an argument, for an accusation, for some version of the confrontation she could reframe later into a story where she was still the reasonable one. I said, "Good night, Nora." I walked back inside. The leash was in my hand. His nails clicked on the lobby floor. We went up in the elevator, and I unlocked my apartment door, and he walked in ahead of me and went straight to his bed in the corner and turned around twice and lay down with a sound like a long exhale. I sat on the couch and looked at him for a long time. The blue ceramic mug from that morning was still on the coffee table. I had not washed it. I picked it up and held it in both hands, even though it was empty and cold. In the weeks that followed, I learnt some of what had happened in the space I could not see. Nora's volunteer status with the rescue organisation was suspended pending review. I was told this by Helen in a brief, professional email. I did not ask for details, and she did not offer them. I thanked her and left it there. The post about rescuing what others do not deserve was deleted. Not immediately, about 4 days after the meeting. I noticed because someone mentioned it to me, not because I was checking. I was not checking. Some of the mutual friends who had commented on her posts reached out to me. A few apologised. I told them it was fine. Most of it was fine. People believe the story that comes first, and the story that sounds most like what they already believe about the world, that some people are rescuers and some people need rescuing, and it is always obvious which is which. It is almost never obvious which is which. I did not post anything. I did not write a public response. I did not need the room to know I had won. I already knew. Here's what I want to tell you about depression and about the people who use it against you. When you are in it, you learn to doubt yourself. You learn to look at your own experience and ask whether it is real, whether you are perceiving correctly, whether your feelings are proportionate, or whether they are symptoms. This is useful sometimes. It keeps you honest. But it also creates a door. And some people will find that door and walk through it whenever they want. Nora had been walking through that door for a long time. Every comment wrapped in concern. Every pointed question delivered in a gentle voice. Every photo taken while I was not looking. She had learned, over years of friendship, exactly how to make me question my own perception. And she had used that knowledge deliberately, and she had done it to a woman who was already struggling to trust what she saw. That is not concern. That is not friendship. That is something I did not have a clean word for until I was sitting in a therapist's office about 6 weeks after the meeting, and my therapist said, quietly, "What you are describing is emotional manipulation. It is a form of control." I sat with that for a while. Then I said, "I know." She said, "You knew before you came in here." I said, "Yes, but it helps to hear someone else say it." Milo is asleep on his bed right now as I write this. He is doing the thing where one ear is folded the wrong way and he has not noticed. His breathing is slow and even. He smells like the outside because we went for a long walk this afternoon, the kind where we do not have a route and we just go wherever he wants to go and I follow. I think about the version of me from 8 months ago, standing in the middle of her apartment with a dish towel on the floor and an empty dog bed in the corner. And I want to tell her something. I want to tell her, you were not wrong about what you felt, about what you saw, about what was happening. You were not paranoid, and you were not too sensitive, and you were not imagining it. You were paying attention, and the thing you were paying attention to was real, and you had more than you knew. You had records and footage and registration papers and a doctor who had been documenting your care for years. You had evidence that no one could argue with because you had simply been doing what you were supposed to do, quietly, consistently, without an audience. The person who needed an audience was her. That is the difference. She needed people to watch her rescue something. I just needed him to be okay. I do not speak to Nora anymore. I do not spend much time thinking about whether she has learned anything, or whether she has found another story to tell about herself, or whether she is somewhere right now reframing this into a version where she was the one who was wronged. That is her work to do. I am not available for it. What I have instead is this. I trust myself again. Not completely, not all at once. Depression does not work that way, and neither does recovery, from the particular kind of damage that comes from being close to someone who spent years teaching you not to trust your own mind. But I am getting there. I notice when I am doubting myself now. I notice when the doubt is reasonable and when it has been installed by someone else. I notice the difference. Milo helps with this, still. He is not a therapy tool. He is a dog who likes walks and does not like thunder, and prefers to sleep with one paw touching my foot. But there is something about caring for another creature, something about the dailiness of it, the feeding and the walking and the vet appointments, and the slow, patient attention to whether he is comfortable and healthy and okay, that keeps me anchored in what is real. I know what I have done for him. I have the records to prove it, if I ever need them again. I do not think I will need them again. The blue ceramic mug is on my kitchen shelf now, where it always was. I washed it the morning after I brought Milo home. I made coffee, poured it in, stood at the window, and watched the street below while he ate his breakfast. It was an ordinary morning. It was the best morning I had had in months. Some things are worth fighting for quietly. Some winds do not make a sound. Mine sounded like a dog settling into his bed, and a leash on its hook by the door, and a folder full of documents I no longer needed to carry. That was enough. That was more than enough.